Bam, we're live. All right, welcome. Get started here in a moment. If you're new, let me know where you're from. Just type that in the chat. And also, if you want to tell us what your specialty is, that helps. Welcome, Ryan. All right. So, look, every day I go live, we talk about what's happening for remodelers. I just share things that have worked for me over the years, things that I've helped others with, things that people shared with me when I was trying to scale my business. Let's say it that way. All right. So take it for what it's worth. If you're struggling, know that there's another way. If everything's working perfect in your business, keep having at it. All right. So why do we say you got to document, right? Why is it important? Most of the time in remodeling with homeowners, the things that end up as a problem, as a mess up, it's not because the work was bad. It's because the work was wrong or because someone forgot to say something about the work that was being done, right? So like the quality is not usually the issue in a lot of situations. It's that it's wrong. The homeowner had a different expectation. So Harvard has studied this, right? 74% of service business disputes come from miscommunication, not fraud, and not poor quality. It's from bad documentation. I mean, think about that for a minute. 74% of all homeowner disputes with the home service contractor are over poor communication. So if you think like, oh, I'm a great communicator and you're not writing things down, you're just adding yourself into that 74%. All right. So big companies have a phrase for this. And I get it. When you wanted to start your own business, like you wanted to run and by the seat of your pants, right? You didn't want to be tied down with all these things, but these things are what's preventing you from making any money. So if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Companies train people to paper the file, it's called. So like after every call, after every meeting, after every decision, somebody has to document something. Hey guys, welcome. If you're new, just let me know where you're from. I'll talk here for a few minutes and then we'll have a discussion. So you have to track things as a remodeler. It can't be up here in your head. If it is, that's great. You'll always be able to manage one job really well and never anything more than that. And if that's your future, awesome. But if you're trying to scale and grow, you have to learn how to have multiple jobs happening. And the only way that happens is with a documented process. Every meeting and interaction with a homeowner is imperative that things were heard properly. Sometimes the homeowner says something and it's not what they meant, right? I don't know if you've run into this many times. We document what the homeowner says and we present it back to them. And often the homeowner will say, I didn't say that. I'm like, yes, you did. Like, well, what I meant was, right? So if you haven't run into that scenario a few times, don't worry, it will happen. So that's why you document things. You have to be the adult in the situation. You have to be the pro. Stop blaming the homeowner. They don't remodel every day like you do. So stop winging it. When you think you remember what was said, the client swears it was something else. And now here you are, you're in a standoff, right? And if it goes to like some sort of court situation or arbitration, like now you're talking a couple $1,000s. So, and or they're not going to pay you for work. Like you lose either situation where all you had to do was write it down. Have them initial. These are like send the notes back to them. All right. So people are like, well, I don't know what to write down, Mike. What do you mean? What do I have to write down? You don't write a novel. You just track key things. If the project's already started, anything that addresses the scope, anything that changes, I don't even care. If it doesn't change the dollar amount, it doesn't matter. If it's a change to what was in the contract, anything that's contractual, you have to document it. And you just put zero cost, but maybe it's a schedule change, maybe it's a selection change, doesn't matter. You document it. Write it down, get it signed. Use screenshots. If a homeowner says something to you specific, save the email, save the screenshot. If it's a face-to-face conversation, write that down as a note and say, this is what I heard you say. Is that correct? You think this is childish and you think it's like over the top. This is how contractors get into huge disputes. Okay. If you've ever played that game where you put 10 people in a circle and one person tells the next person and they whisper it in their ear and then they turn and tell the next person, it's never the same when it gets around the circle. Okay. Same thing happens at all your meetings with your clients. All right. Anytime any monetary thing happens, you write receipts, you document, okay? You explain it. For us, all of our agreements, we write the dollar amount in a numeral fashion, like 5,000, 5000, and you put it in the written word, $5,000. Again, you don't want any misunderstanding from anyone ever about money. So you document it both fashions. If there's ever a complaint, regardless of its accuracy, whether there's a basis for it or not, you document it. That way you can show people, no. So I'll give you an example. We were doing a bathroom tile for a homeowner years ago. And the homeowner's son was a high school, college age kid. He liked to go out and party. And we had set a bunch of tile and we put up caution tape. We told everyone in the house, the homeowner, we brought him up. We said, hey, no one can walk on this tile tonight. Well, what do you think happened? The son came home drunk and walked all through the bathroom, right? And the homeowners wanting us to accept the responsibility for the tile. And we're like, we went over that with you before, right? Because we're smart remodelers. We've done this before. If you recognize that there's a potential hazard, like you have an entitled kid that likes to go out and party, you let the homeowner know, like, hey, we're redoing his bathroom. He can't walk on that tile tonight, right? I'll tell you how this escalated. One day before the 3-year expiration period in my state, under my license, any work I do by the state is guaranteed for up to 3 years. A homeowner can file a complaint with the commission. That homeowner, she went and filed a complaint the day before the 3 years was up. Now, I was able to just pull out the file, send it over to the Home Improvement Commission and say, I remember this incident. We had a conversation with the homeowner. The homeowner is going to remember it when you show him our file. Case dismissed. I didn't have to sweat any of it. I called the homeowner up and said, hey, what's wrong? Why were you trying to get a free tile project? Like, that we talked about that. And she goes, yeah, well, things have been tough lately, right? People will justify anything. Had I not had all that documented, I would have been paying for a new tile floor for that homeowner, most likely, just to keep a good name in the community. Now, I didn't have to do anything other than send my file. This happens. If you have only been in business for a little while, you've been fortunate, nothing like that's happened, good for you. At some point, even your best clients might be having some sort of a financial problem, go through a divorce. You just don't know what's going to come down the pipe, down the road. Always be prepared. Protect yourself. You work hard. All right. So the way you do this without wasting a lot of time is set up some sort of a system. Okay. There's apps that can help you with this. You can do everything on a Google Sheet. You can keep a file where you document all your conversations, and we do what's called a daily log sheet. Okay. So any person who interacts on a client project or on site, they document what happened that day while they were there. Now, some of you are like, that's crazy. Why do you do that? You do it because legally you have liability issues that pile up over time. If you're going to start trying to grow and do some like real volume, you're going to have hundreds of jobs in your filing system. And you're never going to remember all the things that happen. And at some point, someone's going to try to blame you for something. Believe me, especially if you're successful. Sometimes that's the worst thing that could happen to a remodeler is you start making real money and now you become a target. Homeowners like, I can just sue that guy. He makes millions. It happens. So you got to protect your money. Nobody else is going to protect it. You have to save text. But at the same time, it's going to clog up your phone. So that's why you have to do like screenshots. You move those files over and you dump them into some file that you can save on like a hard drive somewhere else. Okay. 90% of the time, you don't need any of it. You're only doing it for the 10% or less that you do need it. Okay. On projects, every week, you should have some sort of recap with homeowners, so that you keep things fresh, you keep them up to date. That way they can't complain that you're not communicating with them. A lot of us, we're so busy swinging the hammer on site that we don't have the energy to talk to the homeowner. you need to reverse your thought process. The most important thing that happens every week is the conversation with the homeowner. Okay, they're going to be more happy that you talked them through the process. So learn to shift your focus. If you are not that person, hire somebody in your company to do that process for you. Um, Come up with a standard script for the way that you communicate so that you always make sure you're covering certain things. For those of you that are by the seat of your pants all the time, it will bite you in the road, down the road. The way that you become super efficient, super effective, super profitable is it's like you're a robot in some respects. Now, you still use your animation, you still have your personality, but you follow a fucking process and you do it the same way with every client. That way you don't get led astray by your emotions and skip things. No, you have checklists. All right. So some people would say, but I don't want to come off like I don't trust my client. It's not that you don't trust them. You just tell them you don't trust yourself. Say, hey, I've found the best way to protect all of us is we write everything down. I'm not saying that you're not going to do something that you said you were going to do. What I'm saying is it's much simpler when we both have it in writing. It protects us both. And then you give them a big hug. Okay. You think you don't have time to write it? I'm going to tell you right now, when you start having disputes and homeowners don't want to pay for things, you're going to wish you had it in fucking writing. Because then you'll say, I wish, you know what I'm saying? Like you'll have time for it then. Trust me. It doesn't take that long when you get into a habit. And you got to ask yourself, why did I get into this business? Look, if your goal is to just be a single guy running around in a truck, working for one homeowner at a time, have at it. None of this really applies. But if you're the type of person that wants to grow something, have a business that works for them, maybe take some vacation time, still have money coming in, this is imperative. Like this isn't a if we're going to do it. It's a how soon are we going to start implementing it? You can use AI to help with this. You can set up a very simple prompt. So basically you just tell it, hey, I'm a professional remodeler and I am the operations manager for my company. I need to create a paper the file system. Okay. AI understands this. This is huge in a lot of big corporations. They call it paper the file. Now, you're going to set it up for your company. You're going to ensure that key conversations, decisions, selections, and changes are all documented, right? You want to avoid client misunderstandings, legal disputes, and you want to find out where your profit's slipping out. So you set up your project types, you set up the client's name, you do the location, start dates, expected completion dates, right? And then you have it make you an 8-part system. Daily logs, number one. You need a printable, some sort of a digital template for all your daily logs. You need some sort of a recapped script template, how you recap conversations quickly. You need some sort of a change order communication flow process. You need some sort of a process for how you're going to do screenshots. And then who in your company is going to manage this paper trail, right? You need some sort of a person that manage all this, keeps that file. And then you have to have someone that updates things weekly with the clients. Clients need to be reminded of decisions that they've recently made. You need an end of the job checklist where you walk through and document that everything's completed 100%. Trust me, if you're not getting clients to sign off at the end of a project, don't think that just because they made a payment that everything's done. You'll get clients out of the blue that call you like a year and a half later, say, hey, you never finished this. You're like, what are you talking about? You have to get them to sign a form that says it's finished. All right. So that's everything I have for you. Looks like I have a couple comments maybe. If anybody has any questions about that specifically or other things in regards to remodeling, fire away. Otherwise, that was day 73 of our AI prompt challenge. Looks like there's some new people in here tonight. If this is your first time here, let me know where you're from and what you do. Jay Allen, welcome. You slipped in somewhere. I missed you when you first got in. How are things? Another day. I was going to say another day, another dollar, but in your case, it's like another day, another $1,000. So good for you. That's right. There's there's a little bit of craziness that happens for anyone who wants to get into like running their own business because at some point you just have to love the grind. Like you just like you get excited and you're like, I love doing this shit. You wake up every day, it's like, what are we gonna tackle today? You know, they're all different, but they're the same. You're always in the same vehicle, yet you're doing something different. So I don't know. I enjoy it. Yeah. So what first world plumbing problem did you solve today, Jayon? Was this back on that commercial job, or do you have you solved some residential homeowners issues? Yeah. You're like, I can't wait to get up and go do it again tomorrow. How let me ask you something. Your old boss, man, you should have a good deal with this person. You guys seem to have a good working relationship. That's awesome. Congrats. Yeah, man. That's real good. You might be buying that company out at some point. I mean, and you might have already looked into this. A couple guys that I know, big thing in our area. I mean, I would assume it's true in most markets. You'll, as another plumber is getting ready to retire, you'd want his phone number and database and name. You know what I mean? Because of just how many houses they've serviced over the years, all the water heaters and furnaces and boilers that has their sticker and, all the clients that they've serviced. Okay. That's the first job for them since, wow, in 6 years. Interesting. I wonder what made them call you at this point. They're like, we remember how great Justin was when he worked for us. We got to get him back out on the job. Hmm. All right. I'm not sure what you mean by the question marks, Jay Allen. Sometimes there's a delay, I think. Yeah, they love you, of course. No, I mean, that's awesome that they're reaching out to you. You know, so that's awesome. Anything you can do to expand your network. Yeah. You know, you know what it's like. I think this is what happened. When you worked for them, they thought you were great, but then when you left, then they realized just how great you were because it was hard to fill your shoes. You know what I'm saying? They're like that. Jay Allen's not here anymore. Man, we're never going to be able to replace that guy. That's what happened. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, you let them eat their nice slice of humble pie. Like, "Ah, we really messed up when we let Jay Allen leave." Well, they say people don't know how good they had it till they lose it. Man, look at you, 6 weeks. That's impressive. Yeah. You know what? You're living, your life is probably showing you that you get what you put back out into the world. When you're respectful and you treat somebody else's business like, hey, I'm going to give you a lot of time to prepare for this. I think the world has an interesting way. The world you live in, you kind of create it in some respects, is what I'm saying. So by you doing good things like that for other businesses, I think it always comes back to you in the way other businesses end up treating you and your business. Yeah. No, I think it's a pretty good testament. Next, we just need them to do a nice Google review for you, and then you can show homeowners. Look, I even got the company I used to work for 6 years ago. They're even writing me up, telling me how what a great job we did. Exactly. Well, that's awesome. Congrats. So, yeah, for sure. Well, you made it through. Today's hump day, so you made it through that. Only it's all downhill from here. Put in a hard day tomorrow, and then a half day on Friday. Your week's over. Yes, sir. So, a imagine this, Jan. If you could wait, or anyone that's on here tonight, imagine if you guys, like, literally, if you could just wake up tomorrow and your business was doing exactly what you want. What's like the number one thing that you'd want different in your business? Like what's the biggest hurdle that you're finding is happening like today in your area or in your niche specifically? Okay. So for you, more about just getting reps in, getting your feet, feeling like you're on solid ground so you know what to expect day in and day out, probably. Yeah, I remember, so you're more heavily into the service end, right? So I didn't launch the handyman division the first year or two. We focused mainly on, yeah, don't get big too fast. Absolutely. In your case, you probably could grow a little faster than you're thinking. I think you're a little cautious in a good way. You know what I mean? Like you're already crushing it. But no, your approach is perfect. I in our first year or two, I mainly just did remodeling, and I had to learn the seasonalities of what it's like in my marketplace, right? I had to notice that no matter what I do, in a sense, that there's going to be a lull between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because most homeowners do not want to take on a big project because they have too much going on in their lives. They're too stressed. They're buying Christmas presents. They're running around getting the house ready. The kids are doing this. They're doing that. Right. The family's coming. They're going. Um, they're on edge. They're burnt out. It's been a long year. So we had to start marketing for those projects all year long. Every time I'd meet with a homeowner, I'd have to say, hey, so do you guys go away for the holidays? Because I was always looking for the homeowner who wasn't going to be home so that we could schedule remodeling projects. Because some people go away for like a long time. They might go away for a month. Um, or if they're not having the holidays at their house, they might be much more open to having us do the remodeling in that period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Whereas homeowners that are hosting, obviously, that we could never do a remodel typically then. So, learning those fluctuations were important that first year or so. Learning how important tax time is for most people, and learning how we do like some advertising campaigns that we try to remind homeowners that if you're trying to do a remodel in the summer, the best time to be planning it is now, not in the summer. So, don't wait to call us when we're already booked. Call now, be ahead of your friends, stuff like that. A lot of homeowners, because we get swamped with calls right when tax time is just when everyone's getting their tax refunds. And then everyone's all excited for spring and summer, and that's when they all want to do their projects. And then boom, it usually dies a little bit in August because everyone's getting ready to take their kids back to school. And so anyway, you learn what your market's like. That was one of the reasons why we did launch the handyman business, so that we could ebb and flow better with smaller projects year round. So anyway, makes sense. Yeah, take the first year, learn the market, you can look back. If you're tracking all your calls you get every month, you can look back and see what months the calls were higher, what months you booked more jobs. And then that helps you dictate how you're going to advertise and market coming forward this year. So, all good things. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like I'm finding most people, everyone tells me they struggle with getting jobs. And I don't always believe that. I think what ends up happening is guys only know how to focus on one thing at a time, right? So when they're busy doing work, they can't focus on getting a job. But then as the job's wrapping up, then they're nervous because they don't have enough jobs lined up. So then they just focus 100% on getting the next job. And then they change their focus to doing the job again. Whereas the balanced approach is to always be looking for a job and always be working a job, right? Which is tough for a lot of people. And then, some guys, when we start giving them leads, then they can't manage the leads because they don't have a process for it. So then they get overwhelmed. That's a big problem. And that would probably tie into your don't get too big too fast, right? So setting up a couple basic processes so that you can scale and accept more work. It's been it's been an interesting experience. I've worked with a couple companies where they complained like, well, we could do more work if we just had it. And we're like, I don't know. And we go out and we start a marketing campaign for them and bring them in all this work, and then it swamps them. And then they just, so like we've had to learn, like we can't do that to people, right? Like, because they just don't have the system in place. So but a lot of people don't want to hear that. What else? But yeah, anybody else have any? If you're new, let me know where you're from. Trying to think what else. I'm trying. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jay. I'm down there where they're building the Project Stargate. I still want to see that one day. Appreciate you sharing with us, JL. Let's Let's see. Share. Trying to think what else I could share tonight. Let me look at the notes again. Give me a second. So, the paper trail. What you're getting, the daily log sheet. Oh, I'll share this. This happened to me just less than a year ago. So I'll have some clients that we've worked for a long time. And one lady called me up and they wanted to redo their basement. So I go out, meet with them. We're going to rip out all the carpet in their basement except for their bedroom. They have a bedroom and basement. Their house is built into a hill, so it's got a full walkout. And they want that new LVP in the game room area, right? They have like a pinball machine, an arcade game, ping pong, whatever. We're moving and wiring up things for where they're going to put their new big screen TV. We're changing, the floors. So they had a nice set of stairs coming down. We were switching it out to all nice hardwood because the stairs which is builder grade. House was probably built like 15 years ago, so it didn't have real wood in the stair system. So we ripped all that out, rebuilt the landing, put oak hardwoods by hand, sand them, stain them, coat them, and then oak treads. And anyway, so we were not supposed to rip out the carpet in the bedroom. We were supposed to keep the carpet in the bedroom, but we were painting the bedroom. And I got confused, and I went in and started having we ripped out the carpet in the bedroom. And then I had to go back, check my paperwork, and explain to the homeowner how, hey, tell me what kind of carpet you want in here, because I'm going to be putting in new carpet for you. So, that's another thing for having, sometimes it's not the homeowner's mistake. Sometimes we make mistakes, right? And I just got it confused. And it was because I was trying to rush the job a little bit. I felt like we got a little bit of a late start that morning. And I had a guy standing around. I was like, hey, get in there and hurry up and get that carpet out of that bedroom real quick. And he wasn't supposed to get the carpet out. He was just supposed to pull the furniture off the wall and plastic everything so that we could get ready to paint the bedroom. So that wasn't a fun day, but it happens. Fortunately, I was able to have the homeowner wasn't frustrated that they were getting new carpet. But anyhow, well, yeah, right. You mean I get brand new carpet? All they had to do was pick out the fabric color and pattern that they wanted. So anyhow, well, I'm looking over the notes. I really don't have much else for tonight. We're at day 73. We'll go 27 more days to hit 100. Let's see, tomorrow. So tomorrow's helping to talking about like client composure. A big thing. Jalen, you seem to have a pretty good demeanor. This probably isn't an issue for you, but some people get very emotionally driven on the job site. And if you let your emotions take over, sometimes you can end up doing or saying things that later you may have wished you didn't. And the same happens for homeowners, right? I have found over the years, as I've gotten a little older, more mature, I've calmed down, I've learned some hard lessons. The more relaxed I am, the more relaxed the homeowner starts getting. Even if they come home from work all fired up one day, they want to like unload on the job site. when you as the owner are able to just hear them out for a minute and just look at them like, oh yeah, tell me more. What else is happening? What I mean is by not engaging and escalating and being combative, they can start to calm themselves down and recognize that they're being a bit unnecessary. So, anyway, we'll get into that tomorrow, and then we'll have like. Yeah, fair point. This is Jan, you might be experiencing this. I can imagine in the plumbing world. This is what I noticed this 100% in the remodeling world. I've had a hard time articulating it. And I was watching somebody do an interview. They weren't talking about remodeling specifically, but they were talking about what this YouTube generation, the problem that's happened is you have a whole generation of people that likes to watch snippets of information. They basically like to watch the highlight reel, and they only like to learn the trick. The problem is they don't know the foundational knowledge where it's appropriate to apply the trick, when, why, how. They're just full of tricks in their mind. They like, oh, this is a trick. I saw this on a YouTube video. When you do this, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No. You can't do that trick in this situation. Like, you have to understand the foundational principles. I can only imagine in plumbing that that's happening to you a lot as well, right? Because people don't understand. They don't understand the process at all. They only understand these little hacks that they've seen that look cool in a YouTube video or on an Instagram reel. And so, Jan, how are you? What have you found works? How are you able to articulate back to that homeowner to help so that you can do it the way that you know is going to protect your business? Okay, hold on. Gotcha. So you'll just ask them the question and see what they say. You'll turn it back to them, let them kind of answer their own question. It sounds like. Gotcha. I'm assuming this comes into play when you're trying to do the ventilation on their furnace or water heater, and they're concerned maybe why you need to reline the chimney or something, put a double wall, or yeah, 100%. Yeah, why is it costing me an extra $1,200? The other guy didn't. Yeah. Do you know what carbon monoxide? The silent killer. How many people have end up dead because it kills them in the middle of the night while they're sleeping? Yeah, more material, more work. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's been a dumbification of a generation of people where they just think that, you know, just do this. That's the way to get it done. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're missing like all the first foundational principles and steps. So it's, yeah, it's always the same story too with homeowners when they've, so many of them will call and say, well, we tried to do it ourselves and it looked so easy on TV. And then after we made 32 trips to the big box store over the last 2 weekends, and we've made more of a mess than we have progress, we recognize that we just got in over our heads. But it looked so easy when we watched HGTV. Chip and Joanna, they made it seem like it was no big deal. Yeah. Yeah, crazy, right? Like, there's how many kids have been injured because you're not putting the anti-tip device in, you know? All kids climb. They climb anything and everything that they can. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, no, good point. Yep. Yeah, and you have to find that delicate way to explain to the homeowner that I'm not doing this because I want to gouge you. I'm doing this because I'm trying to protect your kid that you seem to not be caring about right now. Yeah, or the tenants' kids. Yeah, good point. Yeah, landlords are trying to be cheap for sure. Yep. Nobody thinks it matters until 3 weeks later when all of a sudden there's an incident in one of their properties with one of their tenants and they're getting sued. Yeah. And then that extra $75 that it probably is costing them to have you do what you're doing, it doesn't seem like such a big deal at that point. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yep. Yep. You can't save everyone. A lot of people have to learn the lessons the hard way. We all have to go on our own journey, as they say. Mm. And this is what I find even more fascinating. For some reason, some homeowners, when I'm like, hey, like I'm concerned, like this is a big liability issue. We can't do it that way. It's like the more I want to explain it to them, the more they'll want to resist it. And I'm like, I get it, man. You just don't want to hear it from me. You know, I don't understand why that happens all the time, but for some people, and it's like, I'm just trying to protect you. It's crazy. Yeah, 100%. Well, you're being smart. Yeah, yeah. Because it's not worth it at the end of the day. But yes, I think that's what happens with taking the. Yeah, exactly. Here's a crazy fact. I have never had to put in a single insurance claim ever in all the years. Like, I'm not saying we haven't made mistakes on jobs, um, that stuff happens, but we've never once had to use the insurance. Um, Never had a homeowner lawsuit sue me. Um, During 2008 and 12, I did fall behind on. Uh, I had put in a $75,000 material order for stock building supply, and then we had a homeowner cancel a project, and we couldn't return the materials. and we did fall behind. I had to work out a payment plan with stock to pay them back. So I have had stuff like that happen, but I've never had a homeowner. I've never had a problem with insurance. Um, I can't. They don't ask for records every year. I don't know what they do behind the scenes, but no, not every year. So, but again, we've never had to put in a claim. So I don't know if that's part of it or not. I doubt it. I just, but not every year. Yeah, I'm not sure. Could be the company. Maybe some companies are changing some things. It, I don't know if it has something to do with the age of the business. Maybe the first 5 years. I don't know. Be interesting to see. Could be the nature of the work. I could see plumbing being a high risk, just because of flood, water damage. So I could see that potentially being something that they, you know, it was interesting. I was better off subbing a lot of my roof projects as I was to doing them. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's all a racket. At the end of the day, you pay this money just to cover you for that extreme issue, and of course, your state, I'm sure, requires it in order to be licensed. But it's a at the end of the day, if more people were honorable and just took care of the problem, um, the money that you're paying to the insurance company would easily cover the work. But then again, there is always the case where it's a catastrophic issue, and then you do have a lot of contractors that aren't good business people, and they could never cover that. So I see it from both angles. But yeah, but you get through the first year, get that renewal, and then after as you get through year two, maybe you shop it a little bit. I don't know. Have to see how things are going. Yeah, I guess it's because they were, everyone just tries to estimate what their exposure is going to be based off of your. I guess they're going to look at your volume and the type of work that you were doing throughout the year. So, and most likely they probably were underestimating how I bet they underestimated how much volume you were going to do, but I could be wrong in that respect. Maybe you knew. Yeah, they want to know how much revenue exactly. And my thought is you probably doing better than most of their other first year companies. Now I could be wrong. Maybe I just don't understand the market that well, but from I would believe that you're probably doing better than a lot of other first year companies. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it might be a fun conversation to have with your agent. Just ask them, hey, how many other plumbing outfits do you do? When they're. Now it's going to be obviously it's going to be different if some guy starts out his business and hires 10 guys and puts them, has 10 vans and just launches head first. You're not going to be. I'm not saying that, but for the person operating like you're operating, I think you're doing way better than most are for their first year. So, which is a good problem, a good thing, not a problem at all. So, all right. Well, you're going to be coming up on that audit, so you'll have to let us know how it goes when it's all said and done. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate you participating in the chat as always, Jay. And again, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. And, all right, I'll share this real quick. So I wouldn't count on ever getting money back. This has been my experience, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope this isn't the case for everyone. So during that 2008, 2012, when the economy crashed, I had to make a lot of changes in 2012. So we went from having 10 plus W-2 employees down to 6 or 4. I feel like we cut it by about, maybe I had whatever it was. I might have had 12 that year, and we dropped down to 6 in 2012. Now I was paying all of my workers' comps, everything that you have to pay based off estimates, your quarterly payments. I paid everything the whole year as if I had a full team. So at the end of the year, I came back to all the people and I said, hey, look, we used to carry 12 people, and this year we only carried 6. So I should be getting refunds because I basically overpaid by double. And we had to have everyone come in, do audits of our books. I didn't get a single refund in any department. In fact, 2 of the places told me that we were underpaying, and I don't know, man. So that's been my experience. And we kept good records. I will say I didn't have an attorney present. I think if I would ever go through the process again, okay, if I would ever have to do the process again, I would have an attorney to work through. We would not just open up our books to these agencies and let them audit everything like we did then. When I was younger, I really trusted that everyone kind of did things on the up and up all the time, and people were just like honest and straightforward. And that has not been my experience, even with the agencies. Like, even these like IRS agents, the way they keep their job is they have to find people that are, they have to find cases to go after. The EPA, this whole lead paint thing. The only way that program gets funded is they have to go out and find contractors to fine so that they can pay for their salaries. So you start realizing, wait a minute, this isn't to help the homeowner. You're fining me so that you still have a job next year. So that's been my experience with those agencies. I can't say that, I understand. I think their intent is good when they get started, but then somewhere along the lines, the way that it gets funded, yes, it shifts and it becomes more of a scam. I have rental properties, and it's the same thing. When we first got started as a landlord, they told us that we'd have to register our properties, and my local county was hiring rental inspectors that would come out and just make sure that we weren't slumlords, right? Well, they only did that for a year. Then they fired the people, and then they told all the landlords, now you have to pay an independent person to come out like every 2 years and inspect the property, and you have to pay them for this service. So like everything just gets switched back around. Ultimately, the protection to the tenant doesn't ever really happen. It just becomes more of a burden to the business owner. That's been my experience. So yes, exactly. Uh, but what are you going to do? Just have to go through the process. But hopefully, in your case, it'll work out well, and you'll get some money back, and they'll realize they were overcharging you, and then you guys can take a vacation. You and I think it's your wife. You guys can take a little winter vacation and celebrate the hard work and the reward for being, getting through the first year and making some money, which is awesome. Yeah. So Yeah, you have to let me know where you're gonna how you're gonna celebrate your 1 year anniversary. Hopefully, you guys, do something to celebrate all the hard work. I don't know, whatever it is, you know. But hopefully, you do something. And congrats. So I'm looking forward to watching you celebrate the 1 year. Appreciate you being here. I think that might be everything we've got for tonight. All right, perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, you're doing it the right way then. Yeah, you celebrate every day. Good. That's awesome. All right. Well, Jay Allen, again, much appreciate you showing up and participating. And I wish you a very successful tomorrow. All right. Have a good one. Take care.